Welcome, viewers. My name is Jaleesa Dallas, Program Manager for our Recognized Student Organizations. And today we're having an honest conversation about creating career goals. Today we're answering your questions on this topic and sharing about defining your career goals, taking action and following through, and adapting to change. Joining us today is Courtney Altamirano, University of Phoenix Senior Human Resources Director, and Greg Lewis and Jamie Johnson from our University of Phoenix Career Advisor team. So we're going to kick it off with Miss Courtney, and she's going to tell us a little bit about defining your career goals. Courtney?
Hi, welcome everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Like Jaleesa mentioned, my name is Courtney Altamirano, and I'm a Senior Director of HR at the University of Phoenix. So I'm super excited to talk with you about career growth and setting goals for your career. So typically, when we think of career growth, we picture a ladder where there is one direction to go, which is straight to the top. But in today's world, it's different. I would really encourage you not to think of it as a ladder, but instead think of it as a jungle gym. Those big round metal playscapes we used to crawl all over as kids. So when you were on a jungle gym, if you wanted to get to the top, sometimes you would need to go left or you would need to go right in order to climb up. Sometimes you even had to take a step down to get in the right position to get to the top. So this is a perfect metaphor for your career. Sometimes you'll take a lateral role to get the experience you need to ultimately get that promotion. So I encourage you, do not fixate on the next level at work, but rather think about the experiences you gain in each role, project, assignment that will prepare you for the future. So with that in mind, it's important to have a strategy as to how you will approach your career. Climbing that jungle gym, you need to know how to get to the top. So where do you want to be in the future? Do you want to be a manager? Do you want to be a CEO? What's your big, scary goal? Figure out what that is and then set small goals along the way to get there. So, for example, if you want to be a CEO one day, that's awesome. You probably need to run a department before you do that. And before you do that, you probably need to be a manager. And before you do that, you probably need some practice in those skills necessary to lead people. So think about all of the skills you need to reach your goal. Again, if you want to be a CEO, an experience managing that budget is really going to be critical. And if you want to be a manager, it's helpful to have experience leading people, whether that's a volunteer group at your kid's school or if you mentor someone at work. Think about all of the skills you need to get to that big goal and make a bingo sheet. Yes, take a piece of paper out, draw some lines, draw a grid on it, and start to fill in those bingo boxes with skills and experience you need to get to the top of your jungle gym. So, for example, for me, if I want to lead an HR function one day, then gosh, I'm going to need experience in managing a budget. I'm going to need to have a specialty experience in HR. I'm going to need to have general experience in HR. There's lots of things that I need to do. And I can then make my strategic career decisions based on the experience that I know I need to gather to get to the top. So, again, this will guide you on activities and actions to take, and each box is a developmental challenge. And every time you complete one, it brings you one step closer to your goal. Plus, what I love is it gives you excellent talking points on what accomplishments to highlight in your next interview. Okay, I've talked for a bit, and the last thing I'm going to say is make sure that you take your bingo box or your bingo sheet, rather, and your next developmental goals to your supervisor or mentor and ask for feedback. Sometimes we don't know what we don't know, and we don't know what experience we'll need. So let them know what you're trying to accomplish. Let them know you need their expertise and experience to make sure you're headed in the right direction. They might add to or take things away from the bingo sheet, but their support and feedback is going to be crucial. So, with that said, I'll stop talking and share with the colleagues. So, thanks so much for your time, guys.
Thank you so much, Courtney. You have definitely made defining careers so much more adventurous than I had originally thought. The jungle gym and the bingo. I love that. I hope you all are enthused by all of the good suggestions. Thank you so much, Courtney. Now, next, we're going to have Greg, and he's going to be taking talking to us about taking action and following through. Greg?
Great. Thanks, Jaleesa. I'm also really excited to be here with you all. And yeah, Courtney's got me thinking about the playground. So I got to try to focus here. But I am excited about, some of the things that she said and love the bingo sheet idea. When you're developing your goals, that's the fun part. Like, hey, I want to be this. I want to be a manager. That's my end goal. Obviously, it's not always linear. But when it really comes to getting those goals accomplished, you do need a plan. And so some of the things that we talk about in our office and career services is, are you prioritizing your goals? Are you planning with purpose? So are you outlining what you need to do to get to that place? And then finally, and probably most importantly, you have to be accountable. So you have to find ways to stay on track because life gets in the way, and it's kind of like the jungle gym. You might have to go sideways or backwards before you can go up. So I think those are the kind of things that you might want to think about to be able to take purposeful action. So when we think about the priorities, and Courtney kind of alluded to some of this, it's really thinking about, okay, what are the main things right now that I would like to accomplish career-wise? And if you've identified a few of those, then it becomes, what are the things that I need to do to get to that place? So I really like the manager idea. I work with a lot of students and alums who have been in the professional workplace, but they want to get to that next level. They want to lead others. They think they have the skill set, they have the background and the interest to do that, but they don't have the direct experience in that. So I would think in terms of smaller goals. So if you're currently employed, you might think about things like, hey, I want to job shadow my manager. Can I follow you around for a day to see what it's like a day in the life? Could you volunteer for interdepartmental projects that might be going on? Could you lead a meeting, something as simple as putting an agenda together and kind of getting that exposure and that experience if you lack that kind of leadership? So that's just kind of an example of like, what do I need to do to prioritize if I want to get from point A to point D? And it's much easier if you can identify those smaller goals that will get you to that place. So the second part that we would think about is really defining a plan with purpose. And this is usually where things get a little sketchy for folks because they've got the idea, they want to be a manager, but getting to that place can be, and staying on task with that can be a bit of a challenge. So what we might suggest is that we do suggest is getting it down on paper. Now that could be in a document, a Word document or something like that. But just the mere fact of writing down your goals and then the accompanying steps that might be needed to get there goes a long ways to your commitment and to your memory of the things that you need to be doing. So I think getting a written plan, and I like the idea of non-negotiable goals. Now, I'm not a hardliner necessarily, but if you just sort of leave it loose and open-ended, chances are you may not meet that goal. So try to put hard deadlines. So if I wanted to make sure that I did a job shadow with my manager by June 1st, put that down in writing and say, okay, did I check that box? Did I get there? Did I get to that place? So that's really the thing that you have to do. And what I would say with any written plan is make sure that it's detailed, it's got those deadlines, but it's also realistic because life does get in the way. So just be willing to adjust as you need with your written plan. And then finally, the biggest thing for me is being accountable. So setting aside time, for example, scheduling time every week that you're going to focus on meeting that career goal. So if it's doing extra work to learn leadership skills, if it's volunteering in your off time, then make sure that you are scheduling those things in because they're going to help you meet that long-term goal. So consistent habits as it relates to your career goals is very important. The more you do it, the more you'll stay with it. The other thing that I have found very helpful in my own life is finding somebody to keep you accountable. Having somebody in your life, whether it's a friend, a schoolmate, a colleague, your manager, somebody in your life that you share your plan with and your deadlines, and they know the direction that you're trying to go. And you make it a point to stay in contact with them to let them know how you're doing as you progress towards your career goals. That part of it gives an extra sense of accountability that I think is really important if you want to achieve your goals. And the other thing that I would say that's not for everybody, but as I mentioned, having a written set of goals, post them, put them somewhere you can see them on a daily basis. And when you check one off, make sure you scratch it out. I put a big X in it. If I, it's just like a checklist you do in your daily work life. Those things are really important because you've got to celebrate the little wins as you try to move towards your long-term goals. So just be aware of the idea of planning purposefully, being accountable, and just identifying those top priorities and figuring out the goals that will help you get there. So with that, I will turn it back to Jaleesa and look forward to furthering the conversation.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Greg. I'm one for alliteration. And so, what helps me to remember from what you said is prioritizing, planning, partnerships with people and your experience, and then posting it. So, I hope you all take those gems and utilize them so that you can be successful in the goal planning process and taking action. Thank you so much, Greg. Next, we'll have Jamie, and she's going to be talking about adapting to change. Now, this should be good.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Jaleesa. And of course, loving everything that Courtney and Greg just shared as well. You know, it's so important, just as they shared, to face that jungle gym with your bingo board, and you've got your plans, as Greg said, and you've got goals, short and long term, and strategic support to help you through the process. But let's talk about life, and how do we make sure that the goals and dreams that we have in store for us are within where we want to be? Because sometimes life happens. And let's talk a little bit about what happens if things change and that we need to adapt. Maybe the goals we originally set now need a new direction, or maybe they're not even valid for us anymore. So I just want to share all the things that they shared are very important. And I just want to add this other perspective of how to be flexible and adaptable, yet make your goals and dreams a reality. So let's kind of imagine ourselves, we're starting out with our goals and plans, just like we were describing earlier. Maybe we're in our late teens, early 30s, mid 20s, and in that range. Let's say we're somewhere between that area where we've decided to the specific areas we want to accomplish. What happens at that time? Normally, we're getting ourselves financially established, we're developing ourselves in the profession, we're taking on new opportunities, we're thinking financially what we need to do, we want to go up the ladder. And of course, as we move on and we've gotten experience in that late 20s to 30s time, something happens. And I start to see this process happen where people stop for a moment and they think, wait a minute, am I on track for where I want to go? Is this what I want to do? And they start to think, okay, do I want to stay where I am? Do I want to update and move into something new, or do I want to completely innovate? And at the same time, there may be other things happening in your life, relationships. Maybe you're thinking about getting more education or training. Maybe there's other factors going on that make you stop for a second. And those original goals that you created may need a little tweaking, may need to be reflected and think, is this in line still with who I am? And that's the key. It's not that you don't want to plan, you must take care of yourself and think about who you are, reflect. But now we're getting ready to focus on, are these goals and dreams that we have in store right now in line with who we are now and where we ultimately want to go at this time? So as we move on into our life, we move into the 30s and 40s. Some people may be getting new family members. Some people may be buying homes, or other purchases or things are going on, financial obligations. This may also be a time of people are going back to school and kind of rethinking, okay, I'm now in this next phase. Where am I going to be next? What is it going to look like? And if you are on track with what you want to do, you may realize, wait a minute, if I stay here, this may not be what I want to do. And that's the gift. Now you're going to adapt. You're going to adapt and think about pivoting. What would that look like? And in any of these stages that we talk about, those three keys, reflect, adapt, pivot, can fall in place and help you continue on that path, what you want to accomplish. As we talk about, we're in the midst of now 5 generations in the workplace, and as we move into our 40s, 50s, 60s, on this range, and there's different things happening in our lives, we see people going beyond that phase. And many people are reflecting, well, I could retire at 55. I've been in the civil service role, I've been in the military, I've been in K-12, and what do I want to do something else? I know people who've completely gone from education to they're now in real estate. I saw a couple go from business into moving out of the city into South Lake Tahoe to start their own business and work in the casino so they could have the lake life. I saw a person I know completely take their career that they'd been in for 20 years and go home to be the person at home. These kind of situations can come up because life happens, right? How are we allowing ourselves to reflect, to think who we are, to move as we need to move? So, yes, absolutely. Just like Courtney talked about that jungle gym, we may have to shift down to move over, or don't think of it as a linear process. Like Greg said, we definitely need to have a plan and have it set up, but be ready to pivot and adapt as you need to, because life happens, and we want to think about what that may mean, because you may be like the person who I just recently worked with, who at age 66 is going back to school to get a master's, become certified in drug alcohol counseling, and she started an internship which will turn into a full-time job with the Salvation Army after she'd had a whole career in restaurant retail management. So where are you in the process? Yes, it's awesome to plan. Yes, it's awesome to have goals. But remember, wherever you are in this process, reflect, adapt, and be ready to pivot if you need to, so that you can accomplish what you want now and in the future. Thank you so much, Jaleesa. Take it
Thank
back to you.
you. I appreciate that. That was awesome. It sounds like in this case, you have to be resilient and you have to know how to rap. No pun intended. But thank you all, our panelists, for participating. And so, just in summary, we're taking an adventure. We're making this roadmap to defining our goals and making the plans and equipping ourselves when we're coming to adapting to change. So, thank you all so much. So, next, we're going to take some time to answer some of your questions. So, if you have some burning questions, go ahead and put that in the chat so we can bring them up on the screen. The first one is from Latricia. Any advice on taking a leap of faith to applying for a job in a different state? That's a good one.
So I have thoughts on this. I saw this pop up in the chat and I was really excited you asked this question. So I have the joy of interviewing lots of folks for lots of different positions around the organization. And here's what stands out to me in an interview. If there is someone, now let me back up. The good news is we live in a very virtual environment nowadays, where lots of folks have opportunities, or there are opportunities to join companies virtually that might mean you don't have to move. So that's really cool. And that's an option that came out of an unfortunate circumstance with the pandemic, but it has allowed a lot of mobility in the workforce. That said, some companies are in person and some you would need to show up to an office and potentially in a different state. What always stands out to me in the interview process is someone who has done their research about that state and location. So if I'm saying, hey, what do you know about Phoenix? And they go, gosh, I know it's hot. It's true. It's very warm. But at the same point, if they say, hey, I know you have good schools. I really like the East Valley. I'm looking at this area, or this is what has attracted me to the area. Then I know, gosh, you were really serious about making this life change. And that stands out to me in the interview process. So I would encourage you. I saw the note about the monetary changes too. Think about cost of living, think about cost of healthcare, childcare, all of those. Think about local taxes. All of that are things that should be a consideration in your decision to move and relocate to another state. But definitely do your research and highlight that in the interview, because that shows those interviewing you that you are really serious about this move.
Can I add one more thing to Courtney? Because I loved everything she
Sure.
was saying. And I just think about this a lot because I work with a lot of alums. If you've ever looked on LinkedIn, we have over 800,000 alums in LinkedIn alone. That doesn't even include all our alums, because not everybody uses LinkedIn. And that's a whole plethora of connections right there, a family. We have alumni chapters, that you can tap into. I just recently, where I live in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, had an alum reach out to a couple of alums, and they were able to make some great connections. Um, What about our Phoenix Link network? Utilizing those of us in the career services area where we can help you start to learn how to utilize that and support, so that when you approach Courtney and those in the HR realm and the other opportunities, you've got your inside scoop on the community, you've met people, you're networking, maybe you've got yourself prepared so that you can present yourself and be ready if you decide to move or pivot, adapt to that next role.
That's awesome. And it also sets an expectation. When you do the research, you're expecting the desired outcome of being a successful candidate. So why not set the tone early on? Thank you so much, Courtney and Jamie. Thank you, Latricia, for your question as well. We have a question from Selena. Any ideas for creating career goals for someone thinking of a complete career change in their 30s, 40s, or 50s?
I could take a run at that one real quick. That's an excellent question, and it's certainly something that I know Jamie and I deal with quite a bit. Folks that are pursuing a career change. I think for me, that kind of goes back to the idea of the taking stock of where you are, like the prioritization. So really taking a clear picture of what your options are. And I kind of look at it in a couple ways. One, I would think, like, if you're ready to make a career change, but you're not exactly sure what direction you're going to go, the first thing that I would do is take an inventory of what skills and background and training that I already possess that I can take with me that transfer well to other industries. And again, you don't have to know where that end point is yet, but really taking stock of who you are professionally and considering where there might be some gaps if you're going to potentially move to something different. So I think that's the first thing you do. And I would say, as somebody who falls in that 30, 40, 50, I think the main thing that you actually have to really think about is, what do you enjoy? So you've had work experience. What are the things, the parts of your jobs that you've already had that you enjoy and you're good at? And if you can kind of identify some of those things, that could potentially gear you towards the next career change, or the career change resulting in hopefully something that's more satisfactory for you. But I think that's the first thing that I would do, is take stock and then identify what are the things that really motivate me and I have passion for going forward for the second half of my career.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Greg. I think that's such great advice, especially volunteering also helps too. Why don't you just step out, try something, see if you like it, as Greg mentioned, as a way to kind of navigate that process. Thank you so much, Greg. And thank you, Selena, for your question. Our next question is from Amy. What exactly does it take to become a business owner?
Gosh, what a great question, Amy. It's $1 million question, and potentially literally. No, I kid. But when you look at what it takes to become a business owner, there's lots of different things. It depends on the type of business you're looking to do. If you want what we would call a brick and mortar business, if you want an actual storefront or an actual space, there's lots of things to think about in terms of real estate licenses, business plans, all of that. So, and that is a loaded question. I think, to answer it simply, the biggest thing you need to become a business owner is a lot of courage, bravery, and grit. It is hard. It is a hard job, but it is absolutely possible. There are so many thriving businesses out there. There's no reason that yours can't be that as well. I would encourage you to do your research, depending upon what you need. From my HR heart would tell you to be aware of any labor rules and regulations. But the good news is there are lots of companies and industries out there that are designed to assist small business owners or even big business owners. They'll provide legal counsel, HR advice, feedback on local rules and regulations needed to open a business in your area. So I would encourage you to reach out. And I'm going to steal Jamie's idea from earlier. Reach out to LinkedIn, reach out to your community, talk to alumni who've done it, and ask for their advice. Ask what they did and what they would do differently, because that's going to give you a lot of insight and guidance on what to do next.
Well, I was just going to add really quick, and Jamie, I'll let you finish it up. But I agree completely with Courtney, and there are a couple resources that we often refer people to. SCORE is an excellent mentoring program that can provide. It's run through the Small Business Administration, but that's an excellent place to start to develop kind of your infrastructure. And I think Courtney touched on it. In my experience in working with a lot of entrepreneurs and folks that are starting their own business, the two biggest things are a business plan and then where are you going to get your funding from. And so those are two of the main things that you really have to identify right out of the gate. And so SCORE and the Small Business Administration are free resources that can definitely help develop those parts of it as you move forward. So just a thought. Jamie?
I would just like to add on top of that another organization that I've used a lot. I've used personally in my area, and when I lived in Los Angeles, the Small Business Development Center, which is connected to usually a community college or college university in your area, and they're connected to Small Business Administration and usually also the Chamber of Commerce. You'll find partnerships along with SCORE. And if you take access to all those different organizations, sometimes, like if you go to the events website in your area, you may see certain people having their own like groups, like for example, women wanting to start a business. There may be some kind of social group going on where they meet once a month. I noticed I was looking at one group, I think it was in Atlanta, they had a women's group for entrepreneurs. There's the startups, the incubators in the area that are there for people, and they put on workshops, they do different things, they help you explore. So there's a lot of resources out there, but as they've all said, just piggybacking on what they shared, take advantage of the resources, get to know yourself, get to know the circumstance you're looking at, and start to really reach out to the connections and the information that's available for low cost or even free.
Thank you so much, everyone. I'm actually an entrepreneur myself. And so, what's been common and what I've discovered is that relationships are important with people and organizations. Find people who might be doing similar things so that you can carry a mindset that's going to help you to be a successful business owner. Thank you so much, Amy, for your question. And thank you, panelists, as well. So, from Brian, what if I'm not sure what the next step in my career should be?
I'm willing to jump at that one.
Go
We
ahead,
work
Jamie.
with the students and alum and that topic all the time, Greg and I do. And I think this is actually the most exciting, and you're one of my favorite, student alums to work with because this is your chance to begin to create what you'd like to do. And, Greg said it earlier, and also Courtney mentioned it, get to know yourself. Look at yourself from that, what I called reflect. Remember, the other thing is the career core. What are your interests? Not all interests we want to get paid for. Sometimes we may start out with one area and then we decide later we might turn our hobby into either a gig opportunity or something that we want to do professionally. But what is it that you really love to do or like to do? What are you really good at doing and also enjoy? What about your values? Do you need to save the whales? You want to live in New York City? How much money do you want to make? And then on top of it, you know, where is it that you can be you, that you can be yourself? I call it do you want to be an ugly duckling or do you want to be a swan? Where is it that you can really shine and be your best? And those are the core parts to start. And there's assessments to take out through the career services. We have opportunities through the Phoenix link system, through the website. There's some new exciting things coming your way too through our website. Also, the government through the Occupational Outlook Handbook, and ONET has some free resources you could take advantage of. And of course, we can sit down and work with the different tools and resources we have to help you start to hone in. Because once you get that sense, then I call it like job dating. You want to know what you want. You don't want to go out and say, I'm a generic date. You want to hone in on who you are. So you can look at the choices, right? And they go, yeah, that's me. No, that's not me. So that's where I start first. When you don't know what you want to do, learn who you are and what's important to you. So now you can start to research. And then on top of that, then we talked about this LinkedIn, the University of Phoenix network, the connections that we have, people we know, do informational interviews, research as much as you can, do an internship, volunteer. I had a student, had no work experience, volunteered in a hospital, and she ended up getting an opportunity to work full time in that same hospital because they got to know her. As Jaleesa said, relationships. We've all, I think, parroted that same framework. Relationships are everything. And especially since COVID, I'll just share this with you. I've noticed the main thing first, who are you? Do they know you? Is there some kind of connection? And then number two, are you targeted to them? Have you targeted your job search, whether it's researching your documents, your approach when you interview, that they see you know what you want to be with them, and you know where you're going. Those are key factors. So start to get to know yourself so you can go to those next steps.
I want to jump in and just build on what Jamie said too. And Jamie, I absolutely agree with everything you just said. I think if you are in a spot, Brian, where you know kind of where you want to go, you're just not sure what to do next to ultimately get there, or if anyone else is in that spot, I would really encourage you to find someone, whether on LinkedIn, in your company, in your network, who has that job, and sit and meet with them, take them out to coffee, sit and ask, how did you get there? What did you do? What experience did you need to get there? Again, going back to that bingo sheet that we talked about earlier, think about all of the skills and experience you need to ultimately get to that career goal and start making those strategic decisions. Sometimes it means like, gosh, I know I want to be here and I know I need this experience. So I'm going to take a leap of faith and take this job in another company, a lateral job somewhere else, because I need XYZ experience. So I would encourage you to find someone in the career that you want to be in, if you know what that is, and then interview them, talk to them, ask them how they got there and what were the keys to their success.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was really, really great. And thank you so much, Brian, for your question. So our next question comes from Solomon. I am graduating this month and I need help building my professional resume. I know my job very well, but looking to build an attractive resume. What should he do?
Well, if you're a student or alum of the University of Phoenix, you should definitely contact Career Services because we could certainly help with some of that. So keep that in mind if you fall into that group. But yeah, I would say as it relates to the resume, if you kind of know the direction that you're going in, the main thing that we always encourage people is to make sure that, if you're identifying things of your current job that will transfer very well to what you hope to do next. So think about those job duties or accomplishments that you've had that may make you attractive for the next job that you seek. But happy to help where we can on that.
Yes, our career advisor team are phenomenal and they will help you to get that looking nice and clean and very specific to where you are trying to go. Thank you so much, Solomon, for your question here. And our last question is from Dolores. Does the University of Phoenix have services to help past students with one-on-one career planning? I'm excited for you to answer. No.
I'll just piggyback, and I know Courtney and Greg will have things to say. Yes, 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 we're here for you. And you can go through your My Phoenix portal, and you can go into the Phoenix Link system, and you can actually sign up for a meeting with us and get to know us. You can we will meet with both students and alum. If you've had classes here and I'm no longer a student, you are welcome. Please contact us. That's what we're here for.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dolores, for your question. We are so happy to serve you all, alumni and current students. And I want to thank our panelists for participating and thank you, audience, for tuning in. If we didn't get to your question, we will do our best to answer them offline. But you can learn more about the University of Phoenix Career Services for Life Commitment at phoenix.edu/careers. And then also, if you are a student or alumnus aspiring to grow your network and build your leadership skills in community, as we talked about relationship, be sure to check out our recognized student organization offerings under the Student Experience tab on phoenix.edu. Again, I want to thank you all for joining us today for today's discussion. Stay tuned for our next Let's Talk About in July. Have a great one.
Bye, everybody.